Before we begin our training, I would like to acknowledge and pay respects to the traditional custodians on the land on which we meet. It is upon their ancestral lands we meet today. As we share our own knowledge, expertise and experience within HIPI, we pay respect to the knowledge embedded forever within the Aboriginal custodianship of country. Welcome to the HIPI Network Quality Assurance Overview module, Assessment of Program Quality. The purpose of this training is to provide an overview of assessments of program quality at HIPI. At the end of this training, you will be able to describe the purpose of an APQ, describe the 4 HIPI outcome areas, discuss the standards under each outcome area, discuss each rating, and identify the different types of evidence to support the ratings. The process supporting the APQ will be covered in a different module. So what is an APQ? The APQ is a 3-day visit that occurs every 3 years. The visit is conducted by a HIPI Australia representative who is not the site consultant. The purpose of the APQ is to assess program quality by reviewing evidence of effort and outcomes and through reflective practices. The APQ will be used to support the creation and development plan to help the site strengthen their practice. Both the APQ and the development plan support providers to achieve quality outcomes for families and tutors. There are 19 quality standards which link to the 4 HIPI outcome areas. There are 3 standards for children, 8 standards for families, 4 standards for employment and training, and 4 standards for communities. HIPI uses a 3-point scale for each standard consisting of extending practice for sites who are delivering the model and more for this standard, model practice for sites who are delivering to the model, and developing practice for sites who are working towards the model with areas for improvement. The 4 HIPI outcome areas are children. Children develop a love of learning early. Families. Families are empowered and engaged in their children's learning through building their own confidence, skills, and knowledge. Training and employment. HIPI employs parents as tutors, building capacity through training, goal setting, and professional development. Communities. HIPI and their family are engaged in their local community. So what does the APQ consist of? During the APQ, the site completes a self-assessment of their program quality. The self-assessment involves reviewing what the site does against the HIPI outcome areas, the quality standards, and the compliance indicators on the compliance checklist. It also includes a HIPI Australia assessment of program quality where the HIPI Australia assessor reviews the site's performance against the HIPI outcome areas, the quality standards, and the compliance indicators on the compliance checklist. As part of both the self-assessment and the HIPI Australia assessment, the site and the assessor will rate the site against each standard using a 3-point rating scale: model practice, extending practice, and developing practice. We'll discuss the ratings in the next slide. At the end of the APQ, the site and the assessor will discuss potential goals that the site and the consultant can add to the development plan to support the site. Each standard is given one of 3 ratings. The model practice rating definition are sites who are delivering to the model and providing a program that meets expectations and is achieving expected outcomes for the standard. As part of model practice, there is evidence the site is planning, reviewing, and improving their practice. To be rated model practice for a standard, the site will have no more than 1 compliance issue relating to the quality standard rated as not met, no developing practice indicators ticked, and most or all indicators in model practice ticked. Please note that each standard on the APQ tool lists the related compliance requirements. The extended practice rating definition is for sites who are delivering to the model plus more for this standard. This is a strength for the site, and they are extending their practice in this area. The site has consistently high levels of outcomes performance due to the evidence-based systems they have in place to monitor, build, and continuously evaluate capability and innovations they make to improve their own performance. To be rated extending practice for a standard, the site will have to have met all the model practice indicators, have no developing practice indicators, 1 or more extending practice indicators, and no compliance issues for the standard. In extending practice, there is also an opportunity to note if the site has developed and successfully put in place and has evidence of an innovation regarding the standard. These innovations can be brought back to HIPI Australia to be shared with the network. Developing practice. The developing practice rating definition is for sites that are working towards the model with areas for improvement in the standard. For this rating, there is limited evidence of planning, monitoring, and reviewing of practice. To be rated developing practice for a standard, the site will have most or all of the indicators in developing practice ticked, and if they have more than one compliance rating related to the standard rated as not met, the standard must be rated as developing practice. Next, we'll talk about the type of evidence sites and assessors can use to assess program quality. Best practice quality assurance and outcome measurement tools are evidence-based. When rating the tool, sites and assessors will need to review different types of evidence to support each rating. The tool lists documents, reports, feedback, and activities that can be used as evidence under each standard and requirement. There is no magic formula for how much evidence or what should be ticked off in terms of the evidence list for each standard. There are some evidence areas that do provide more depth to the level of information, such as observation and ETO reports. However, all areas hold valuable pieces of information. When sites and APQ assessors review each piece of evidence, they should assess the evidence with the thought, what is this evidence telling me? How does this provide proof that the standard is being met? Has the evidence raised any concerns? Do I have sufficient evidence to confidently read through the rating definition and tick off the indicator to that definition? ETO reports. In ETO, there is the Quality Assurance Report of Reports, which lists and links all the reports needed for both compliance and APQs. Running and assessing the reports for each standard will build an understanding of what is occurring at the site. This supports the response to many indicators across the standards. Once a clear picture of what is occurring, the site and the assessor then need to unpack the how. For example, how the site is achieving success or how the challenges are impacting the delivery of HIPPY at the site. For sites, reviewing the ETO reports prior to the visit should be part of their reflection and self-assessment and support their ratings. For assessors, the ETO reports can identify any standards or indicators they may want to focus on as part of the assessment. Observation. Observation evidence is any activity that is directly observed by the assessor. As part of the visit, the assessor will observe tutor training, home visits, and group meetings. This provides an opportunity to see the quality of how the site is meeting a standard. Any evidence not directly observed by the assessor is considered feedback, not observation. Feedback. Feedback evidence can be used to support rating and includes the child feedback on the HIPPY packs, reflecting on HIPPY yellow pack 6, age 4, thinking about my HIPPY learning, purple 5, age 4, reviewing your HIPPY storybooks, purple 6, age 4, thinking about HIPPY, purple 3, age 5. It can also include visual media such as social media posts, videos, and pictures, group meeting surveys and evaluations, children's work samples, pictures of children's work, and enrichment topic surveys and evaluations. Discussion and reflection. Discussion and reflections cover any evidence identified that supports the rating through discussion with relevant HIPPY stakeholders. This could include tutors, families, coordinators, line managers, HIPPY children, and community feedback, early childhood educators, schools, community organisations, advisory groups, etc. There are many types of planning and documents that can be used as evidence to support a rating. The evidence list mapping has a full breakdown of the planning and document evidence. Additionally, this section is where sites can note evidence of innovations that they'd like to share with HIPPY Australia. Each of the 4 HIPPY outcome areas have several quality standards that link to the relevant outcome. Children outcome area. Standard 1.1, HIPPY children learn with their family at home and in their community. The indicators for this standard look at children and families spending time together doing HIPPY activities and everywhere learning at home, doing everywhere learning in their community, the HIPPY parents / carers seeing opportunities for learning in their everyday activities and routine. This standard links to both the everywhere learning and home visits, parents groups, 5 essential features, and that all young children learn guiding principle of HIPPY. Standard 1.2 is hippie children develop a love of learning. The indicators for this standards look like hippie children are enjoying doing hippie activities, building their confidence by having a go, feeling positive about themselves and their learning, being provided opportunities to use their own voice and agency. This also looks like hippie families tuning into their child's learning style and being able to adapt hippie activities to meet their child's needs. The standard links to the Everywhere Learning 5 essential feature and the All Young Children Learn guiding principle of hippie. Standard 1.3, hippie children acquire new learning as they participate in hippie. The indicators for this standard look at hippie children practicing and improving their listening skills, communication skills, social skills, thinking and reasoning skills, and creativity. It also looks at hippie families using Everywhere Learning and being supported in the transition to school. This standard links to the role play and Everywhere Learning 5 essential features. It also links to the guiding principles that all young children learn, and that all children mature across the same developmental areas, and that learning and development are multidimensional and interrelated. Families Outcome Area, Standard 2.1, hippie families learn about how young children grow and develop. The indicators for this standard look like hippie families are learning about how their child develops, their role as their children's first teacher, the importance of a positive home learning environment, how children learn by having a go and practicing. This links to the home visits group meeting 5 essential feature and the guiding principles. All parents want the best for their children. Parents can support and teach other parents. Children's learning is enhanced when parents understand children's growth and development. Standard 2.2, hippie families learn how to teach their young children. The indicators for this standard look at hippie families learning about the purpose, why, and the learning what of each activity, the purpose, why, and the learning what in the parent packs, how using the 3 C's encourages their children's learning, using Everywhere Learning, modifying activities to meet their children's interests and learning styles. This links to the 5 essential features, home visits, group meetings, and role play, and the guiding principles. All parents want the best for their children. Parents are the primary and most important educators of their children. Parents can support and teach other parents. Standard 2.3, hippie families are engaged and participate in hippie. The indicators for this standard look at hippie families learning at a pace and style that meets their learning needs, being asked for feedback in different ways and at different times, being offered ideas to support engagement, being offered flexible delivery to maintain engagement, being supported to participate in home visits and group meetings, having re-engagement strategies in place when they are on hold. This links to the home visits group meeting 5 essential feature and the guiding principles. Parents can support and teach other parents. Children's learning is enhanced when parents understand children's growth and development. A parent's role in supporting their child's learning is enhanced with consistent support and access to appropriate materials and techniques. Standard 2.4, hippie families spend time interacting positively at home and in the community. The indicators for this standard look at hippie families spending more time together, using positive language to encourage their child's learning, building confidence as their child's first teacher, and creating a positive learning environment at the home. This links to the guiding principle parents are the primary and most important educators of their children. Standard 2.5, hippie families are involved in their child's learning in the early years and at school. The indicators for this standard look at hippie families learning about the importance of their role in their child's learning in the early years and at school, educational and school terminology, the socio-emotional independence and learning needs of children in the early years and at school, how to support their child when starting school, opportunities to engage with early years services and schools. This links to the guiding principle parents can and do teach their children. Standard 2.6, hippie families develop confidence, knowledge, and skills through learning opportunities. The indicators for this standard look at hippie parents and carers being offered additional information on child development, literacy, numeracy, and parenting techniques, learning opportunities that develop their knowledge of family health, nutrition, and well-being, life skills and knowledge such as first aid, work skills such as digital literacy or language classes, opportunities to develop resumes, job search, and interview skills. This links to the guiding principle children's learning is enhanced when parents understand children's growth and development. Standard 2.7, hippie families are recruited in a planned and intentional way. The indicators for this standard look like the site having planned and intentional strategies regarding when, where, who, and how to recruit families. Standard 2.7 also looks at how the site reviews what has worked well previously when recruiting families and any barriers previously experienced during recruitment and how they can adjust their current practice accordingly. This can be reviewing the sharing of information about Hippie, how the site has gained interest from possible participants, what supporting networks understand about what Hippie is, who it is for, and its intended outcomes, and the priority of access. This links to the 2-year program 5 essential feature. Standard 2.8, Hippie family engagement is monitored with strategies in place to retain families. The indicators for this standard look at the site monitoring family engagement and having strategies in place to support families to stay in Hippie. This can include regularly running reports to understand family engagement and delivery, line manager and coordinators discussing retention targets, concerns and strategies, planning and strategies regarding times when families are at most risk of exiting, delivery during school holidays, and ensuring families receive the most out of their Hippie delivery. This links to the 2-year program 5 essential feature. Standard 3.1, tutors are trained on how to deliver Hippie at home visits and group meetings. The indicators for this standard look like Hippie tutors are introducing activities while making connections to past learning, using their own words and examples to describe the learning in activities, role-playing and reviewing activities and exploring everywhere learning, explaining and exploring information in parent packs for age 5, role-playing in a group setting. The indicators for this standard look at Hippie coordinators, planning tutor training, using tutor training resources, providing enrichment, introducing activities while making connections to past and future learning, supporting and encouraging tutors to use their own words and examples to describe learning in activities, role play and reviewing activities and exploring everywhere learning opportunities, explaining and exploring information in the age 5 parent packs, role playing in a group setting. The standard links to the role play and everywhere learning 5 essential features and also links to the guiding principles parents can support and teach other parents, and a parent's role in supporting their child's learning is enhanced with consistent support and access to appropriate materials and techniques. Standard 3.2, tutors deliver to families at home visits and group meetings. The indicators for this standard look at Hippie tutors being organised and prepared for home visits, considering the needs of each of their families, being familiar with the pack being delivered, discussing and reviewing the previous pack, explaining learning in the packs in their own words with examples, checking for parent understanding of learning and activities, helping parents learn through role play by swapping roles of parent and child, modelling the 3 C's and building parent confidence with the 3 C's by making periodic mistakes. This links to the 5 essential features. Parents/carers are employed as home tutors. Role play is the primary method of delivery to family. Home visits and group meetings are an integral part of Hippie. Everywhere learning is encouraged. The standard also links to the guiding principles parents can support and teach other parents. A parent's role in supporting their child's learning is enhanced with consistent support and access to appropriate materials and techniques. Standard 3.3, tutors develop core skills for the role. The indicator for this standard looks at Hippie tutors developing skills through pre-service tutor training, pathways to possibilities, and supervised home visits. Discussing core Hippie skills during tutor training, P2P, and supervised home visits, and being provided opportunities to build general work skills during their Hippie journey. This standard links to the tutors of parents in the program 5 essential feature and the guiding principle a parent's role in supporting their child's learning is enhanced with consistent support and access to appropriate materials and techniques. Standard 3.4, tutors set goals for professional development and are supported with growth and learning opportunities. The indicators for this standard look at HIPPY tutors having the opportunity to engage in formal and informal professional development opportunities, being supported to set goals through the skill development activity, developing a Pathways to Possibilities plan based on their skill development activity, having the opportunity to build their own capacity by developing skills during their HIPPY journey in such areas as self-development, learning, relationships, and work. For coordinators, this means identifying and facilitating professional development opportunities for their tutors, planning and supporting tutors' path P2P, and planning for tutors' transition after HIPPY employment. Standard 4.1, HIPPY families connect with other families in their local community. The indicators for this standard look at HIPPY families sharing and learning about parenting with other families, sharing about their culture and learning about other cultures, building strong and sustainable relationships with other families in their community. This links to the group meeting 5 essential feature and the guiding principles: respect and acknowledgement of diversity enhance children's and parents' sense of belonging, and connections between parents and communities build a family's capacity to care for and educate their children. Standard 4.2, HIPPY families know about local venues, activities, events. The indicators for this standard look at HIPPY families learning about events in their local community, activities for families in their local community, such as playgroups or story time at the library, local facilities and venues that families can use, such as playgrounds, parks, or leisure centres. This links to the group meeting 5 essential feature and the guiding principle: connections between parents and community build a family's capacity to care for and educate their children. Standard 4.3, HIPPY families know about services that support families. The indicators for this standard look at HIPPY families hearing about local services that support families and how to access them, such as maternal, child, and family and health services, learning opportunities that support families and parenting, online and phone services and how to access them, such as Raising Children's Network and KidSafe. This links to the group meeting 5 essential feature and the guiding principle: connections between parents and community build a family's capacity to care for and educate their children. Standard 4.4, HIPPY families' engagement in their community is enhanced through the intentional connections and partnerships developed by the HIPPY site. The indicators for this standard look like the HIPPY site participating in HIPPY provider advisory groups, community committees or boards of management, volunteering with local services, early childhood and or schools committees such as parent associations. This links to the guiding principle: connections between parents and community build a family's capacity to care for and educate their children. Just to recap, the APQ is a formal supportive assessment of the site against the 4 HIPPY outcome areas and the 19 quality standards. Each of these standards links to the 5 essential features and the 10 guiding principles of HIPPY. The main types of evidence for each standard are ETO reports, observation, feedback, discussion and reflection, and planning and documents. Evidence for each standard should be assessed with the thought: what is the evidence telling me? Does this provide proof that this standard is being met? Has this evidence raised any concerns? Do I have sufficient evidence to confidently read through the rating definition and tick off the indicator to that definition?